While making a stop in Valparaiso, Chile in 1908, the fleet was bombarded by a massive swarm of locusts that darkened the sky and covered the ships. Well, welcome back to SM Postcards. Today, I got what's sold. I only sold 9 cards, so it shouldn't go too long on that. And then the special topic. This is from the naval ships. This is from Navy, U.S. Navy. It's called the Great White Fleet. And we're going to talk about what that is. It was very important during President Theodore Roosevelt's presidency to have this done. And it was kind of like a tour around the world of all these battleships from the United States. I got some history on that, some cards, how to identify them, and we'll see how they sell. Then I got a poll. What is your conversion rate? Your sales conversion rate. That's when someone goes into your listing, views it, and then buys. If they go into and view it and don't buy, that goes against your conversion rate. So one of our viewers, Ryan's Vintage Postcards, wanted to know what the baseline was for people that sell postcards. So he asked if I would put that poll out there. And I did, and we'll look at those results. Then I got some viewer comments. These comments are basically all based on, are you a full-time reseller or part-time? I usually put that out 3 or 4 times a year because things change with the environment, and I like to get a feel of who's doing it full-time and who's part-time that participate in the polls. Well, let's go get started on what's sold. Like I said, this ain't going to take too long. Sales are, roller coaster. Been for a while. I look for trends. I look at how I'm going to do at the end of the month, 3 months, 6 months, and so on. I don't look at every day. If I have a slow Saturday, I'm not going to make a lot of changes. If I have a slow morning, I don't jump in and do markdown sales and then sell similar. I just look for a trend. It always works out by the end of the month. Just the way it works. Now the first one I sold is Santa's Workshop, Mullins Farm at Christmas. This is a farm and they do a lot of Christmas stuff. I've seen multiple postcards of this. This is the Santa's house. It says Santa's Workshop. There's Mrs. Claus, some elves, and Santa. So they had these made, and this sold for $4.75. Speaking of battleships, I sold this one, USS Arizona, BB-39. Just a print on the matte paper, unposted. Battleship, $4.75. Another boat. This was sailing on lake. Greetings from Frankfort, Indiana. Just a linen card. It has a sailboat right there. $4.75. This is Kodak Park in New York, Rochester. Kodak Park in Rochester, New York. It's the Kodak plant. Only found $4.75 for that. It's a chrome card. It's got rounded corners. It doesn't really raise the price and stuff with rounded. That was pretty popular in the 60s and 70s. But chrome card, $4.75. This person bought 2 submarines. And the name of the submarine is USS Catfish. This is the first one. That's the second one. 2 different views of the Catfish. SS-339. So I sold both of those for $9.50. Next card sold for $5.75. This is Hotel Kankakee. I remember this hotel. Was downtown. It's no longer there. But I grew up in Kankakee, Illinois. That's where I was born. And this is the hotel, Hotel Kankakee. Linen card. And I think there's an office building, which is a library now, and some parking lots where that used to be. But it was a huge part of Kankakee downtown in those days. All these shops and everything on Schuyler Avenue, stuff like that. But that's Hotel Kankakee, unposted linen card, $4.75. Next one I just listed yesterday. This is a rustic bridge on the University of California campus, and it has a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year with hollies on it. I've sold that rustic bridge before with a full card, but not like this. This was only $4.75. It's got a little crease on the corner down here. I could have went $5.75, but with that crease and stuff, and not a big inset, I figured $4.75 and it sold. Next one is Corpus Christi, Texas. It's a parkway, Shoreline Boulevards, and you can look at this old car here. Right there, a 57 Chevy or some kind of, maybe the 50s, early 60s. Right there. Nice chrome card, very well kept, no scratches on it and stuff. You can see it glisten. If I can get it, just really nice condition. $4.75. So that was a total of 9 postcards that I sold. $44.60 is all I got for today. Average sale price, $4.96. So I like to do 14 a day. I only did 9, so I'm 5 down. I like to do $70 a day. Only did 45. I'm down. And my average sale price went down. But that's how trends go. It's not a trend until after a while. Last week I was killing it. I was doing really well. And then a few days, it just goes like this. And that's reselling. That's inconsistent. There's not a lot you can do sometimes. Just one day doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. You don't need to go in and make a lot of changes and stuff like that. On the good days, just put some money away for days like this. I'm not worried about it. I've had a few of these in the last few weeks. I'm set for $70 a day. If I make that, and I'm over that for the year. Even for the month, I'm okay. That's what's sold. Now we're going to get into the special topic of the Great White Fleet. And you're going to understand the name here in a second as I go through and read some history about this. And I found some facts about the Great White Fleet that are interesting as well. While I do this, I'm going to show you some postcards of the ships and stuff from the Great White Fleet and about it. And there was also celebrations when this fleet showed up in Japan, Australia, and stuff like that. You'll see some postcards that doesn't have the ships, but it has the ceremony in there. Now, I had a lot of these cards, Great White Fleet. I didn't really understand everything about it. That's why I wanted to do the video, so I can dig deeper. I learned probably more than you guys do when I start researching this stuff for videos, and that's what I like to do. Now I understand a lot more. Still a little bit of gray area on why they did some things, but it's an amazing read. So here we go. The Great White Fleet was a really big and famous group of ships that sailed all around the world a long time ago. It happened in 1907 when President Theodore Roosevelt wanted to know how strong and powerful the United States was. The fleet was called the Great White because all the ships were painted white, which was kind of special because most Navy ships were gray and black. There were 16 big battleships in the fleet. Now that number is going to change a little bit. Now when we get to me showing what ships in there, there's really 18. But only 16 at one time is how I understand it. And they traveled for about 14 months, visiting lots of countries like Japan, Australia, South America. People from these countries were amazed to see such a huge and shiny fleet. It was like a big adventure for the sailors on the ships, and they had to go through some tough times. But they made it back home safely. The Great White Fleet was important because it showed the world that the United States was a strong and important country with a big navy. Remember, this is 1907. After the Great White Fleet's journey, it made the United States famous and respected around the world. It was like a symbol of peace and friendship because the fleet didn't fight any wars during that trip. Even though they're armed, they didn't fight any wars. It also helped the U.S. build better relationships with other countries. So even though it happened a long time ago, the Great White Fleet is still remembered as an exciting and important part of American history. Now I found 3 facts in here I thought were interesting. In preparation for the Great White Fleet's voyage around the world, the U.S. Navy had to purchase a significant amount of paint to coat the ships white. Approximately 150,000 gallons. That's 150,000 gallons of white paint were used for this purpose, earning the fleet its distinctive name. This massive paint job was not only an aesthetic choice, but also served a practical purpose by helping reflect heat in tropical climates. Another fact, during the Great White Fleet's journey, it encountered a bizarre and unexpected challenge in the form of a swarm of locusts. While making a stop in Valparaiso, Chile in 1908, the fleet was bombarded by a massive swarm of locusts that darkened the sky and covered the ships. Sailors had to deploy creative measures, including brooms, improvised insecticides, to combat the locust infestation and prevent damage to the fleet's equipment. And the last fact, one of the fleet's most unusual and unofficial mascots was a black bear named Teddy. Teddy was originally a mascot for the U.S. Minnesota, but became a beloved figure among the sailors of the Great White Fleet. The bear was trained to salute officers and even participated in various shipboard activities during the voyage. Teddy was eventually presented to President Theodore Roosevelt upon the fleet's return to the United States, where he became a resident of the Smithsonian Zoo in Washington, D.C. So that was a little history about the Great White Fleet. When I researched this, now I understand why I have some sets. There is a set. These were printed by the club, but the main set is like a little green cards, and I had circled in the name of the boats on there. There's a set of 16, 18 of them. But I have every one of these ships, and I've seen a lot of these parades and stuff, that some of the postcards you saw. And I really didn't understand what it was, but after digging into this more, I understand a lot more. Well, what can you do with these? Well, you want to identify, if you have one of those battleship cards like I showed you, was it part of the Great White Fleet? And you're going to see in a moment why that's important with the sell-through rate and stuff. But how do you identify these? So the Great White Fleet was a United States Navy fleet that circumvented the globe from 1907 and started and went around the world. It showed the U.S. naval power. The fleet consisted of battleships. That's what they had. They had a lot of support ships too. The oilers, the food, and all that stuff they needed. Here is a chart of the battleships that comprised the Great White Fleet. And I'll tell you where to get this in a minute. The Great White Fleet here was broken down in 2 squadrons, is what I found. This is what I was reading where I found a lot of this. I'm pretty sure I got it right because it corresponded with a lot of other ones I found. But there was 2 squadrons, and each one broken down in 4 divisions. The first one, you got the USS Connecticut, the Kansas, the Vermont, and the Louisiana, 4 battleships. The second one, you got USS Georgia, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Virginia, and then Nebraska. And I'll talk about this in a second, where these other ships came from. And then the third squadron, you got USS Minnesota, Maine, Missouri, and Ohio. And then the last 4th division, 2nd squadron, 4th division, you got USS Alabama, Illinois, Kearsarge, Kentucky, and Wisconsin. Now remember, the designation like BB-18, BB-21, those are important because a lot of ships have reused the name. There's some ships that the 2nd, 3rd ship that were named that. So you want to make sure the ship you have falls in the time frame of the Great White Fleet, 1907 to 1909, around there. So it has to be built before that. But you're saying, you said 16 battleships. Yes, there were 16 battleships, but when there were some changes when they ported in San Francisco. I read some things about coaling and stuff like that. I'm not for sure with that. They were steamships, so they used coal in a lot of them. 2 ships detached, the Alabama, USS Alabama and USS Maine, detached from the fleet. And they added USS Nebraska and Wisconsin. The battleship divisions were reorganized before the fleet departed San Francisco as well. So you're going to see 18 ships, but the tour only had 16 at one time, is how I understand it. But these are all the ships that are on there. And the little picture here isn't a depiction of the actual battleship, it's just a reference I use. You can get this chart on Ko-Fi. I put it out there as a digital download for free. It says pay what you want. Just put 0 there. And you can download it and print it out or keep it as a reference manual. So when you get one of those cards, you can go real quick and look at it. Now, what I need to do is I need to go back to a lot of my ships next year, and I got it written down on my list to do in 2024, is find out about which of the ones I have are the Great White Fleet. Should I put that in the title? And different things like that. So I want to revisit that, and that's why it's so important that I did this video for myself. But do these things sell? Little chart here I usually keep up when I do the sell rate segment. The red is low. I try not to deal with those at all. I get them in lots and stuff, but I got enough of those cards, or don't QSL cards in Cypress Gardens, Mount Vernon. I try to stay away from them. But I usually stay between 4% and 10%, the high end average is my niche. That's where I look. While I'm doing that, I usually find some of the high, 11 plus, while I'm looking for the average. What this means, it's not scientific. It basically just gives me a range to say the very highs have a better chance of selling than the high and the average and so on. Just gives me some kind of educational guess, instead of just looking down on a white box with 1,000 postcards trying to figure out what sells. This gives me an idea what I can pick up. Do I pick up duds? Yeah. Do I pick up some really good stuff? Yeah. It doesn't guarantee you a sale. It just gives you something else to help get through a box of cards. You can't sit at a show and try to comp every card. Every card's different. It's you just got to go through it, and sometimes you just got to make a educated guess, and this will help you do that. What I do is I go out there, and like here, I take the sold divided by listed times 100, gives me a percent, and I round the percent up or down. I put postcard Great White Fleet. Found 81 of those listings in the title. A little low, you ask me, and 319 listed. So you take 81 divided by 319 times 100, gives you a 25% sell-through rate. I don't think a lot of people know about the Great White Fleet, or if their ship was in there. But 25% on the chart, it's very high. I think Disney's 22. So this is up there. But I bumped it up against a few other ones just to see where it falls. Great White Fleet is 25. Postcard Battleship, 11. Then I put Army and Navy, and they came in at 9%. So this is pretty good movers. So I think it's going to be my benefit to go through my naval ships, since I got thousands of them, to see if I can tag Great White Fleet or anything and get that number from 81 sold or 319 listed, to get that up there. And some people are searching for those. Even though a lot of the people know the ships, they probably get it. It might give me a few extra sales here and there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it's something else to do to break up the monotony of doing things. So the sell-through rate is 25%. Not too bad. Then I went out there and found some extreme higher ones. I didn't find any really, really high ones like I do in some other things. But I found these. First one here, postcard, U.S. Navy Great White Fleet returned from peace voyage. So they called it a peace voyage here. And if you kind of read the history, listen to the history, I said it is kind of a peace voyage. Nice looking card. It's got some Navy guys, some insets and stuff. I wouldn't mind having that card. $48.55 plus $5 shipping, basically. That's not a bad deal with that card. Then you get the next one here, is the Great White Fleet Welcome Parade. This is one of those parades. The ships pulled in and they had parades. So you probably might not see the ships on some of the postcards, but it's the parade. New Zealand military postcard, $42. 14 people looked at that auction, bidded on it, and the one before that was 6 people bidded. So there is an interest in these cards. Then the last one is a vertical card. Around 1910 it says Uncle Sam Great White Fleet Eagle. So they had a emblem, it looks like, of the eagle. So someone knew that, and they got $60, $59.50 for that card. And that one I think came from Worth Point, is where I pulled that. So the Great White Fleet, the top bar is $40 to $50, is the most I saw out there. But then you look at your average everyday ones that you see out there all the time, you'll see this. This first one, I don't have an issue with it. I just know it's not correct to what I found. And not saying I don't have inaccurate listings. I might have out there. Everybody does. When you get through it, you might speculate on something and it wasn't that. But this is an armored cruiser, USS Colorado, ACR 7. I went back to my chart and all my stuff I read. I do not find Colorado, USS Colorado ACR 7 on any of the charts or lists or anything about that being with the Great White Fleet. And here they put naval cover also. This is a postcard. I actually looked at the listing. This is one of the Navy ship postcards. It's not a cover. A cover is one of those envelopes with a little stamp on it and a cachet. And it says Great White Fleet. So there's two things not correct on this listing. And the reason I left this here, not to call out whoever it was, when we get into the poll in a second, it's the sales conversion rate, the percent. So if people came in looking at this ship thinking it's a Great White Fleet and then left, that goes against your conversion rate. So having an inaccurate listing like this can cause your conversion rate to go down because people are just coming in and leaving. Because it isn't the Great White Fleet. They just need to go into this listing and fix it. But that's still sold for $20. Even though it was inaccurate, it still sold for $20. So it didn't stop a sale. And I'm not the hall monitor of eBay. I'm not going to go out there and call everybody out and whatever. They got 20 bucks for it plus shipping. Good. People know what they're buying. Even though what you put in the title and stuff, they know it's a rotograph, a mutoscope, or whatever. When these collectors and stuff looking for this stuff, they know what they're looking for most of the time. Vintage Australian postcard, USA Great White Fleet, $12.88. Only one bid on that one. Not a bad looking card. It's got an inset and some kind of emblem or something there. Then the bottom one I thought would go for more. I really like that. It's got the flags and the emblems. It's got two sailor guys on a pole or around a mast. It's a vintage Australian postcard. Welcome to Australia, U.S. Great White Fleet. So it's a welcome thing. They got $12. It comes from Australia. So if you look at these, it's between like $12 and I'd say $15 is your high watermark on average Great White Fleet cards. Your high ones are like up to 50. So I wouldn't pay a lot for your average ones because you still got to turn that. Maybe a little bit more than what you do on an average topic card. But you're not going to get the $150 on there is what I see so far. Then you got the lows here. And I left the lows in this time. I've been taking them out because it's the same old thing. But these aren't real low. So you got the first one here, Great White Fleet, U.S. Naval Battleship, Rhode Island. And I did check that is in my chart. It's Rhode Island is in the Great White Fleet. $4.60. So it wasn't like 99 cents or anything, but $4.60. And then the next one you got Great White Fleet Commander Admiral Bob Evans. I have this postcard. It's on real thick cardstock. I got a few of those, maybe more than I think. But Bob showed up a couple times. I didn't know. I just put Admiral Bob. I didn't know Bob was the commander of the Great White Fleet. So I need to go in and change that card and put Great White Fleet Commander in it. That might trigger a few more sales. I don't sell a lot of Bob on there. But Bob, now I know who Bob Evans is. Not the restaurant. It's Admiral Bob. Then you got the last one, U.S. Battleship Vermont. That's on my list. I just real quick go to that list. And I can tell just by doing that, let's see, Vermont is the third one down in the first row, BB20. So I know I can put Great White Fleet into my title or description to help out with that or in the item specifics. That's how that chart can help you real quick. $4.60 they got for that. And that has a little emblem up in the right side. I see some of the ship cards have that and some don't. So that might mean something. So your low stuff's about $5. Your average high, 15, 18, and then your extreme highest watermark. I don't think they're bad cards, 25% sell-through rate. I think we get the titles right and get the item specifics and the description right, I might be able to sell a few more of these cards. Might be able to get a couple extra dollars if I go really dig into it a little more. But that's the Great White Fleet. Very interesting read. A lot of stuff out there. Just type in the Great White Fleet, 1907, in the Google, and you'll see a lot of stuff about it. It's really neat to understand how they went through how they voyaged and did things. There were some problems with the ports to support all these ships. They did gunnery practices in I think the Philippines and some other stuff. The Locust issue, Teddy the Bear, just how they did that. Just think if you had to take 16 different cars with 16 different families and do a tour just around the United States for 14 months. You got to keep everybody fed, you got to keep them fueled, you got to get their tires fixed, their cars fixed, where they're going to sleep, how far are you going to go, how far can you go, is it raining, is the weather, is it bugs, did someone hit a deer, just different things. Just doing that would be amazing. Just think these massive battleships around the world in oceans and stuff, what it would take to do that. It's just amazing to me. Just huge amount of effort to do that. But that's the Great White Fleet. Check it out. Learn a little bit more. Who knew? Now we're going to get into the poll. This poll was asked to be put out there by a viewer, Ryan's Vintage Postcards. Ryan's been a long-time member of the channel. He's in Ko-Fi as well. He has a model that's about what I do with the type of cards and stuff. He has more of a quantity model and stuff like that. I won't get into it too much, but he's ramping it up. He's doing things. So he's looking for a baseline here, I think, is what he's looking for. But he wanted to know what the sales conversion rate percentage is. And if you go into eBay and you go into Seller Hub, and then you go to Performance and then hit Summary, over on the right side you'll see Traffic, and it'll give you your conversion rate. What that is the number of sales transactions divided by the number of listing page views. This isn't impressions. An impression is when they show it to someone on a page, but the person didn't do anything. How many times do you see an ad of a coffee maker on a page? If they put it out there 100 times, that's 100 impressions. Now, if 50 people clicked on that impression, that ad, then that's a view. And then if those person buy it, then that's a conversion from an impression to view the sale. So you can't have views without impressions, and you can't have sales without views. So your last piece is conversion, is how I understand it. Now, do I dig a lot into this stuff and manage my business by a lot of this? Not really. I just don't get involved with it. I can't do everything. And these numbers don't drive my business like some other stuff I work on. I pick a few things a year to work on and try to improve on. You just can't keep every number in the green. There's going to be up and downs. You throw a sale on, your conversion rate might go up for a little bit. If you don't put a sale on, does it stay the same? And Daniel says a few things about that too. But here's the poll, is what is your conversion in 90 days? Top one was 1 to 3%. 69%. We're in the 1 to 3%. So I would say that's the baseline. If you're in selling postcards and that's it, what you got, 69% is the baseline. There are some people in the 4 to 5%, and then you got some people, outliers, 6 to 7%. I don't know what they sell. I don't know if it's all postcards that they do or whatever. And you got a couple of people higher than 7%. I didn't want to dig into all their secrets or their honey holes and stuff like that, but I just wanted to see what the baseline. So what keyed on me is 1 to 3%. Now you asked me what mine was. One of the viewer comments coming up here from Tim wanted to know what mine was. So I'm going to look it up right now while I'm looking at this. Mine is at 2.1% as of today. I've watched it ever since this poll was put together. Just here and there, I go anywhere from 1.7, 1.7, 2.2. I'm more under 2% than I am over. Today I'm at 2.1. I don't run sales. I don't promote a lot. I don't have best offer. I don't do a lot of that stuff. So this is all organic to me. But am I worried? No. I never really look at this number. I don't look at impressions. And I really don't care about views or watchers. I'm working on other stuff. That's what I do. Some people really get into these numbers, and this is what they pick to work on, and they're doing that. That's where I'm at. But I had some comments about this. Ryan, the person that asked for this, and thanks Ryan for the questions. Now I want to, in 2024, I want to get more people like what Ryan did here, is questions that I can use as polls. I think I got them all scheduled out to March next year. So I'm looking to fill in some of the months with some questions like that. So if you have any questions that you want me to put together a poll for it, and a lot of them give me what they're looking for in an email, just send it to contact@SMPostcards.com. What your question is that you want to put out there, and maybe some of the selections to help me out. I might reword it or whatever. Now I'm not going to get into people's sales numbers and stuff like that. This one was close to the mark. I was in there, should I really ask these people this? They can, if you just click on a vote, a selection, without commenting, it's anonymous. I have no idea. Nobody knows who you are. But if you comment, it puts your name in there. But it doesn't know what you picked. So I'm not going to get into the sales or a lot of stuff like that. But if there's questions that you want to know, just send them to me and I'll try to put them into the poll. And I'll let you know when it's scheduled. If I use it at all. I'll leave it at my discretion because some things just don't flow with what I try to do here and stuff. But keep sending them in. Contact at SMPostcards.com. Send it to me. But Ryan said, thanks for doing the survey. No problem, Ryan. We are at 5.3%, so that puts him up in the third category, basically, of 6 to 7, over that off the poll, which is good. Currently, but we are using a high volume approach, so he has that quantity approach. His average card price is around $3.80. It's really a balancing act, and I think finding a good, happy medium is key. Thanks for all your videos, Mark. You really provide a great value in the service community. I try. I just show you what I do. And thanks, Ryan, for asking this. But yeah, so the baseline is 1 to 3%. He's already above that. Can he sustain that? Can he continually repeat that and sustain it? I think is what he's looking for. And is it really worth doing what he can to get this number up? Or if you stay in the 1 to 3% and your price is a little higher and you sell less cards but make the same amount of money. That's the balancing act I think he's talking about. Thanks, Ryan. Then Lynn Frugal Grandma, hers is 2.9%. But I don't know if it's all postcards. Thanks so much for your advice. And I've been selling postcards less than 3 months. So it's probably not all just postcards. I have a little over 2,500 cards listed now and I'm pushing hard to get to that sweet spot of 5,000 to 6,000 cards to get good daily sales. That's what happened to me and a few other large sellers that I know. It doesn't mean it might not happen to you. It depends on the type of cards, the price, just a lot of things. But usually when I got up to 5,000 to 6,000 cards, I was saying, yeah, this is really going to work. Before that, it was hit and miss a lot and stuff, but quantity, if you're doing the average cards like I do, divided back down to Chrome, nothing really spectacular. It's quantity and variety rules, and price, ship in 1 or 2 days, good scans, and just keep putting stuff up. Will get you there. What is it guaranteed? No, but it's an experience that I had and others had as well. I hadn't yet looked at the screen, and he didn't know about this number, so that's a good thing. I'm glad Ryan did that because a lot of people didn't really understand this number. But I also not been really serious about this as a business. If it's just a hobby, a secondhand thing, I can see that with people. But if you want to run out there and get the sales and stuff, you got to get off the porch and run with the big postcard guys. You've got to go out there and do it and treat it as a business. And by saying treat it as a business, it means you put effort into it consistently. You have sustainable, repeatable processes. You have a system. And you're actually managing what you're doing and understanding it. Is how I see it as a business. It's just a hobby. You do it here and there, and stuff like that. That's different. Those I don't play, even though those are our competition. They usually wear themselves out after a while. I also noticed my organic impressions are at 66%, and I don't promote postcards. And promoted are 34%. And I have had promoted about 400 non-postcard items in my store. Thank you so much for your shared thing. Impressions, views, conversions are different things. And you can go to the eBay help and type impressions, type views, type conversion. Or hit the little help question marks next to stuff, or go on the web and put out there and you'll understand some of that. Like I said, I don't chase these numbers that much. Now the next person here does. When I see him in chats and stuff like that, he talks about these numbers. So he's managing his business this year on these numbers. He's really has a good grasp of them. And Biff says, according to Terapeak, which is an eBay resource tool, the average conversion rate for used topographical postcards is 1%. And that's what the poll came out, 1 to 3%. So if you're in that area, I'd say your average, you're doing well. If you're above that, you might have ran a sale or something like that. But thanks, Beth. And then Tim Fleener says, what's yours, Mark? I'm super curious how the famous YouTubers are doing. I don't think I'm famous, but I just told you what I did. He wanted me to put it in the comments, but I said, you're going to have to wait for the video. No spoilers. He understood. Yeah, I just read exactly what mine said. Just rewind and you'll hear what I said. Thanks, Tim. And then Biff comes back again and says, his is 3.5%. I don't promote anything. He doesn't promote his listings. And he's at 3.5%, which puts him into the second category in the 4 to 5%. So he's managing those numbers. He understands the numbers. He has authority on those numbers, and he knows where to go get them and check them. I don't think it's one of the main. It's going to make it would probably take Biff that and some other things to show for him to make a change to do anything. These are just what they're used as key performance indicators to see where things are going, so you can kind of manage things. You're not going to keep everything green. It's too hard to manage all these numbers and try to keep every area green. There's too many variables. Pick a handful of numbers you'd like to hit for the year. Once you get those nailed, the next time, go after a couple of them. Pretty soon you're just kind of looking at these numbers to see where you're at. When you hit the 6-month marker of the year, is really where I know, where am I headed? Am I going a downtrend, side trend, uptrend? Where am I going? Am I hitting my budget, my forecast? Am I going to hit that? And then my budget is set. Am I spending too much on supplies? Am I buying too much inventory? If my sales are down, my expenses have to go down. If my sales go up, my expenses go up, but it shouldn't go up that much. You should be able to manage your thing. A lot of people just keep buying, keep listing, keep buying, keep listing. And I always ask them, what number are you trying to hit? What number? When is enough is enough? What number? What are you trying to do? Beat the guy next to you and comparing yourself to others all the time? That's not a good place to be at all. What number are you trying to hit? I told you my number that I want to hit is 14 cards a day, $70 a day, and raise my ASP. 3 simple goals. In 2024, I want to do $80 a day. I want to sell 16 cards, and I want to keep raising my ASP, and I want to find some better cards, which will drive all those other goals. It'll raise my ASP, keep my dollars up. Now, getting better, harder cards to list is going to take a little bit more to list, but I can do that. I have the experience to do that. So I have a number, and I keep my budget, my money, and my profits, and my margins, and my expenses. All of that is managed. I know what that is. So if I see things going out of whack, I scoot it down. But if you wait until November to do that, it's too late. You got to catch it about 6 months right for the year. After 6 months, it's too hard to catch up. You don't want to play catch up. You want to put money away and things away before that 6 months, so you can say, okay, I can coast the rest of the years and meet my numbers. Not trying to. Then the next year you want to bump it up a little and bump it up. But if the trend is going down with what you're selling, you might want to drop that down a little bit, your goal. Don't make goals that you can't hit. Don't shoot for the moon. You'll never get off Earth the first year, second year. Shoot baby steps all the way up and adjust as you go. You made the plan. You're the boss. So thanks, Biff. Now, Daniel has Mailseum. He has a channel and a website, and he sells the higher-end postcards. He gets into a lot of those real photos and stuff like that, a lot of research. So check out his channel. So I asked a question out there, how can a seller increase this number? And Daniel came out with one way of doing it he sees. And he says, in my opinion, better cards and lower prices are the only ways to drive up STR. Sell-through rate, I think we're talking conversion rate, but better cards and lower prices are the only way to drive sell-through rate. Like you say, buyers shop with their eyes. Yes. People, when I had the restaurant, people eat with their eyes. A lot of times the food that came back to the kitchen, they ordered something they didn't know what they were ordering and stuff like that. I didn't have pictures on my menu, so when they got something, it wasn't appealing that came back. They just found a reason. It's like item not as described, returns and stuff. And that's why returns to me don't bother me, because in the restaurant world, a lot of times you get food back for that reason. And if they already clicked on something, they're not buying it because of the title. Yeah, if they're already into your listing, they're past all that stuff. Now you got to get this the price and what they want to buy. I have ran 30% off sale for a week before, and if I ran it for a month, I bet I could get my sell-through rate or conversion rate up to 4 to 5% range or higher. So I think he's talking conversion rate. So if he ran a sale, so sales can have an impact like that. Remember, if you run sales, yeah, you're selling more cards, but your sales dollars won't be as high and your profits won't be as high because you're giving some of that away. Especially if you do a 30% sale on top of 15-16% for eBay fees, all this other stuff, your taxes, you got to look at all that. By the time it's all over with, what do you put in your pocket? I could care less what you make. It's how much you keep. Now, if you're trying to get every last penny out of every card, you got long tail stuff. But if you got some stuff out there to move fast, a little cheaper than the highest ones that sold, you're going to move cash flow. Cash flow is the key to small business. You got to have money coming in. Sometimes you break even, but you got the money back to do something with. You don't have to get every dollar out of everything on stuff. But that was the conversion rate thing. I hope to help people what that number is. Just go into Seller Hub, Performance, Summary, and look at some of those numbers and just see what you're doing. I don't go in there that often. Very rarely do I look at impressions and stuff like that. But thanks again, Ryan, and everybody that participated. Viewer comments. Now, this is about a poll, or I put out there, was on, are you a full-time or part-time postcard seller? I do this about 3 or 4 times a year just to get a measure about where people are at and stuff like that. And here's the comments that I got from that. MC Postcards has been selling postcards since 1999, retired now, and spends several hours a day selling on eBay. Guess that makes me part-time. Yeah, I would say that's part-time. And he's been selling since 99, so it doesn't take long something to do, stuff like that. So I would say that's part-time. Now, Colleen here, I haven't started yet. I have plenty of postcards, and I start selling hard goods. I just can't make up my mind if I should have a separate store or just postcards or other ephemera. Good question. Before eBay standard envelope, having 2 separate stores was fine because we mailed out postcards mostly. Most of the sellers mailed it out with a stamp and a label and a return address. There was no tracking. So you could never get up the top rated status because you didn't have tracking. So when I had the toy store and I was selling postcards, I mixed all in one, but I needed to split them up because the metrics for toys was getting harmed by me shipping out all these postcards with a stamp or a label. And in the toy world, it's pretty competitive, especially with the movies coming out. You have to get every niche, every little piece you can get on there to get these things moving, especially the money you put out for those compared to postcards. So I split up and I opened up a postcard store. And I moved everything over. And I used to just ship out, stamp and a label. So I didn't care. I was above standard all the time in postcards store. And I was top rated in the toy store. Then eBay standard envelope came along. And after a while, we got the top rated because we're getting tracking on stuff. It's not the most robust tracking there is. But just remember where we were. We were stamping a label. And now they give us a little something better for 63 cents, cheaper than a stamp. It's not going to help the people that shipped out first class or ground advantage to come down to that level. This helped us out that we're doing it, the sports card people and stuff that were doing stamps and a label. It gives us a little something better than we had before. So I wouldn't worry about getting 2 stores anymore. A lot of people say get a store with your high moving stuff and then have a store with your low moving stuff because it affects your account, how they look at it. You get all these different stores. Now you're getting into categories. You're paying for categories, it sounds like. Where you can get one store and put postcards and hard goods in it and then use categories to separate them. So if people are coming in your store looking for postcards, they did. Most people don't shop by stores. They shop by the item they're looking for. Now followers to your store and stuff like that, they're going to watch you and as you put new stuff up if you keep it regularly. So I would just do one store. Start with the basic, move to premium. You're fine. I don't want to manage 2 different stores in eBay anymore. It wasn't hard. I put one on Microsoft Edge and I had one in Google Chrome on my computer. So all postcards were on Google Chrome and everything else that I did for my business was in Edge. YouTube's on Google because it's Google owned. So YouTube and postcards were on Chrome and all the other stuff was on Microsoft Internet Explorer Edge, they call it. So that way I could have 2 separate windows open. Thanks, Colleen. I hope that helped. Then Neil from Calamity Photo said he answered part-time I sell paper full-time, but only part of that is postcards. He sells a lot of other ephemera. He's real good about the archiving and knowing what that stuff is. For the folks who answered full-time, I'm curious if they actually sell only postcards. I didn't see any comments to Neil here, but if you're a full-time seller, do you sell only postcards, or are you mix it with other things? Just let us know. Throw it in the comments. Then Pam Card here, she's a member of Ko-Fi as well, and purchases things out of the Ko-Fi store. Thanks, Pam. New to postcards, but have been reselling for a while. Needed to downsize and find something that didn't take up so much room. I'm learning a lot watching your videos. Thanks, Pam. Yeah, I see a lot of people that come over to the channel and send me messages that they don't want the storage units more. They don't want to buy that. They don't want to go to lift all this stuff, pack all this stuff, basically store all this big items all the time, and they're looking to go to something like postcards. My last year, all I did was reduce cost and take my business like this, and I've said it a lot. I've saved over $4,200 from my business. I was able to just squish it down, not getting cheap where I'm squeezing ketchup packets or reusing napkins. I just got everything that any fluff came out of my business for last year. And then renegotiated the insurance, just did different things. Increased sales a little bit, but I reduced my expenses so much it's ridiculous. My overhead is so low now compared to what it used to be. By the second day of the month, I'm already in profit for stuff I'm selling. All my expenses are paid for the month. If I don't buy anything more or do anything like that, that's what Pam wants to do. And postcards, you can store a lot in a small space. It does take some time to get going. It takes about 6 to 8 months to really understand the basics of everything. Put up your first 1,000, list your first 1,000 postcards, buy your first 1,000 postcards, and ship the ones you sell. You'll understand it. You're going to make some mistakes, but that's what you want to do. Now remember to read up on the Great White Fleet if you're interested in that. It was just a very interesting read on all the stuff I found, and considering what they went through and stuff, and how it might be able to give you a couple extra sales is what I liked about it. Especially with my naval ship postcards I got, I was very interested in that. So I spent a lot of time on that one. Can't put everything I read into the video, it would be forever, but I try. And check your conversion rate. Is that one thing you want to track for 2024? That's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Here's some more fish. Bye.